Hello, I'm Tony from Bonner's Music, and this is my review and buyer's guide to the brand new Korg SV2 stage piano. Now, I was an owner of an original SV1 when they were launched about 10 years ago, and I kept it for a number of years, but I had to part company with it because the acoustic piano voices just weren't up to the standard of other instruments that came onto the market after the SV1. So I'm really pleased to say that the SV2 has got brand new acoustic piano sounds. There's lots and lots more sounds. In fact, there's actually double the number of voices in the SV2 compared with the SV1. So there are now 72 voices available from the front panel, whereas the old SV1 only had 36. Also, polyphony has been increased. The SV1 was only 80 note polyphony, which is a bit of a strange number for polyphony, but this is now 128 notes. So certainly when you're layering sounds or splitting voices across the keyboard, then you're not going to run out of notes. You can come and see this instrument as soon as it arrives in our stores, which will be February 2020. We have three keyboard and piano stores. We have one on the south coast in Eastbourne. We have another one in Reigate in Surrey, just off of Junction 8 of the M25. And we also have our new Milton Keynes store, which is near the M1 motorway. And there you can see a big range of keyboards as well. So if you want to come and try the SV2 for yourself and compare it with instruments from other manufacturers, then please do come down to one of our stores and have a play. So in that little bit of playing I did in the intro, it was really just to show my favourite acoustic piano sound. This is one of the new voices, and it's the Italian grand piano. Now, Korg have kept the layout of the SV2 very similar to the previous model. I mean, you'll see that the cabinet shape is pretty much identical. They've changed the colour. As you can see, this is the sort of retro, sort of creamy sort of colour. I really like this actually. Now, this particular model I have is the SV2s, and the S stands for speakers. Now, if you look at the back here, you'll see there are a couple of ports where there are speakers. Now, these are monitor speakers, and I'm actually playing this through these speakers and a set of studio monitors as well. But I must say, sitting here as a player, I can really hear the sound coming from here, and it's really nice because I've got a really nice stereo sound, which if I was playing on stage, it'd be great to have that, because I find the better the sound that you've got on stage, the better you play, because you're not having to compensate for, for inadequate amplification. So it's really nice to have monitor speakers. Also, these would be useful if you're doing a quick rehearsal or you're backstage, you quickly need to practice something with the performers, then the speakers are really good, or just for playing at home. You've got a nice set of speakers built in. But there are two models, like I say. So there's the SV2s with the speakers, sorry, and the standard SV2, which doesn't have the speakers. Now, it's easy to tell the difference because at launch, the standard SV2 with no speakers is only available in black, and the SV2s with the speakers is available in cream. Now, as before, there are two models. You've got I'm playing the 88 note here. There is also a 73 note, and both of them use the RH3 Japanese manufactured key bed, and that's the same key bed that you'll find on the Korg Kronos 88 and 73 models. That's the Kronos 2, not the original Kronos, of course. And also, if you remember the old SP280 stage piano, I think that used the RH3 action as well. So let's just take a look at the front panel here very quickly. We'll start from the left-hand side. Now, the first thing you see is that there's a valve. Now, what the valve does is just add a bit of warmth to the overall output. And I find when playing on stage that you do want a really strong sounding keyboard, especially if you're competing with other instruments. I mean, a guitarist only has to have a 2-watt valve amp, and it's piercing sometimes, and a keyboard just cannot compete with that, with the range of frequencies that a keyboard gives out. It tends to get lost in the mix. So by having the valve on the output, it gives a nice warmth to the sound, but also you can add a bit of grit and a bit of dirt using the overdrive knob here, which I will come to in a little while. But that's the same as on the SV1, and there have been a few other Korg products that have used this in the past, and I must say it really does add a sort of a bit of character to the tone. It doesn't quite sound so digital. It's almost the same as, or I could compare it to a CD as compared to vinyl. The vinyl gives you nice warmth, whereas CD gives you clarity. So you've got the same here. You've got the clarity of the digital side, but it's going through this analog valve, which just gives it a really nice warmth. Master volume control here, and you've got a 3-band equalizer to hand, which is great. Again, if you're playing on stage, you need to add a little bit of brightness to your sound or knock off the bass. It's very easy to do just with these knobs. And you'll find that the knobs, unlike some other manufacturers, which I won't mention here at the moment, but these knobs are easy to use. There's nothing too small and fiddly here. They're nice and big. They're textured as well. So if you're playing on stage, you want to quickly turn something, very, very easy to do. Now, as we move along, the SV2 is not just about the sounds, but it's about the effects as well. And the effects are really, really important. So first of all, we have here the pre-effects. So this is things like wah and tremolo and vibe and compression. They're all here. And I must say that the auto wah is particularly good when you put it onto the clav sounds. We move along, you've got the amplifier. Now the amp, this is what is actually going through, the output of this is going through the valve that I've already referred to. You've got different amp models or simulations of different types of amps. You've got clean, you've got twin, tweed, AC30, boutique amp, and an organ amp as well. And you could have got a separate knob here to control the amount of overdrive. In the middle, nice and easy to get to, are your favourites. You actually have 8 banks of 8 of your favourite settings. So these are what I would call patches or registrations or performances. Basically, they're memories that store a complete snapshot of the front panel of the SV2. Now, what I did find when I was going through these is it's calling up voices that I can't get to from the front panel, and that's because there's a lot more editing that you can get into if you download the SV2 editor. Now, unfortunately, I've got a prototype here and the editor wasn't available when I did this review, but you can get to additional voices. You can set up your own keyboard splits and layers, all using the editor, which is available for PC and Mac computers. And it will give you access to functions which you can't get to from the front panel. So when you first get the SV2 out of the box, you'll go through some of the favorites that have been stored in from the factory, and you will find that sounds are appearing and splits are appearing that you couldn't do yourself from the front panel. That's because they've been programmed in the factory using the editor, which will be available as soon as the keyboard's launched in February 2020. So we're going to move on to the next section, and this is where I'm going to start the demo properly, and this is the sounds. Now, what you have are different sound categories. So you've got 6 sound categories here, and next to that you have a variation button, which you can see there. And each sound, so if I choose EP1, there are actually 12 variations, because you'll see I can switch between the 6 different variations, but then I can press the button here on a variation. That little light there goes green, which means that I'm in the second variation of every sound. So there's 12 variations on every single sound category. So the SV1 was always very, very strong at electric piano sounds, your Rhodes sounds, and I must say the SV2 have retained those same voices, and it does sound really nice. Now, I've actually got a Fender Rhodes myself at home, and I must say that Korg have captured the experience that you get when you play a Rhodes really well with their sampling here. Just adds a little bit of bite when you hit the keys hard. If I turn on the amp simulator here, I'm going to turn it to a twin amp. Add a bit of drive. So, as I said, it's so easy and everything's very, very hands-on. So Let's say I'm going to turn off the amp simulator. So I've just got the straight Fender Rhodes, switch on the modulation effects over here. So I've got a phaser by default, which is giving me this. But I can just change that to something completely different. I've got a classic chorus. So very, very simple to tailor the sound to how you want it. And then you can just store that into one of your 64 favorite presets here. Let's take a listen to some of the other sounds. If we go to EP2, these are the more sort of modern digital electric pianos. So the first one, of course, is the classic Yamaha DX7 sound. So if I just press the variation button, the light goes green and I'll get a variation on that electric piano sound. So let's play a similar thing. So there are also layers of sound as well. So EP2 variation number 2 gives you an FM piano with a nice sort of synth sort of choir sound. So So as you can hear, it's a really good quality selection of electric pianos. If I step through the variations, here is a layer on variation 4. So that sounds to me like it's got an acoustic piano, electric piano and a pad sound all layered together. I'm going to go back now to the acoustic piano voices and let's go to piano 1 and variation 1 and just take a listen to this. This is the German grand sound. Now I don't know if it picks up on the recording, but when I press the sustain pedal, you can actually hear the dampers lifting off the strings. So Korg have actually sampled that to give you more of the playing experience of playing a grand piano. So you've already heard the Italian grand, which as you heard at the beginning, it's a bit of a brighter sound. So I think if I was playing on stage with a band, then the Italian piano would be my personal preference as a live performance piano. But there are 16 different variations on piano 1. You'll see in the owner's manual of the SV2, there's a whole list of all the different types of piano sounds. There's a German piano, there's Italian piano, there's an Austrian piano, there's also a Japanese piano. And then if we go to piano 2, then here you get some more some of old favourites. So the first one here is the sound of the Yamaha CP80, so it's the electric grand. So And I noticed that if I go through here, number 2 is the sound of Korg's M1 piano, which actually was also a very similar sample to, do you remember their old SG1D sampled Grand, I think it was called. It was a very heavy stage piano that Korg made back in the early 90s. But so that M1 piano was a very distinctive piano sound. Also, on piano 2, variation number 3, this to me sounds like the Roland RD1000, which used a technology called SAS technology. And this was actually a favourite of Elton John's live rig back in the 90s, this piano sound here. So again, it's a sound that kind of, the timbre actually changes as you apply more velocity. It doesn't just get louder, the character of the piano sound changes. So what I'm really trying to get across here is that the SV2 has got a really great selection of acoustic piano voices, which will work for all styles of music. Whether it's on stage, you want something with a bit more presence and a bit more up front, or you want a nice mellow classical piano sound, it's all in there. There's some really nice upright pianos too. I'm going to move on to the next sound section, which is the clavier section. And in here, of course, you have your funky clav. It was always one of my favourites on the SV1. I'm glad they've retained it here. But what I'm going to do is switch on the auto wah now. And again, I can add a little bit of overdrive to that. So I'm going to select one of the amp models here. Maybe let's go for the Tweed amp this time. Turn up the drive. So you can get a dirty, funky clav sound, and it's very, very responsive in the way that it plays. But there are lots of different clav sounds, which when you apply the effects to them, they give a completely different character. So it's well worth going through the different clav sounds. Now, as we move towards the other end of the variations on the clavier section, you get some drawbar organ sounds, some good Hammond. And there's also a slow fast button here for the rotary speaker simulator. So if I turn the variation button, I get a different organ sound. So I certainly think that the drawbar organ voices have been improved over the old SV1. In the final sound category, you've got the other sounds. So we start off with the orchestral string sound. So let's try the variation on that. what I'm going to do now is just play through some of the sounds that are in the other category, just to give you a flavour of what the SV2 is capable of. So let's just take a quick look at the rear panel of the SV2. On the far right here we have balanced XLR outputs, and this is great because it means that you can plug directly into a mixing desk without needing to go through a stage box or a DI box when you're playing on stage. Here we have 1/4 inch left and right outputs on standard jacks, so that's convenient if you're not using XLR. We also have here 1/4 inch inputs as well. Now this is really great because if you want to plug in the sound source of something else, so perhaps the sound of another keyboard or even an MP3 player or something to play along with backing tracks, you can plug that into here on 1/4 inch jacks and it will mix that input with the outputs of the SV2. We also have MIDI in and out on traditional 5-pin DINs, and then you have 3 foot pedal sockets. So you've got your sustain pedal, which Korg there called damper, which I've got plugged in there, plus 2 assignable pedals as well, one of which can be a volume pedal or an expression pedal. We have USB there to go to your computer or tablet device, and on this particular SV2, because it's the one with the speakers, we've got an on-off switch for the internal monitor speakers. So what I'd like to do now is just play through just a few of the split keyboard voices that you'll find in the favourites section from the SV2 when you first open the box. So these are some of the preset sounds that have been set up in the factory. You've got some splits and a few layers. I just want to give you a flavour of a few different types of sounds that you can produce with the SV2. So that brings me to the end of my review and demonstration of the new Korg SV2. I must say I particularly like the new acoustic piano sounds, and the effects in the Korg SV series have always been very strong, and I'm really pleased to say that this just continues the tradition of the SV1 in terms of the quality of the effects. They're actually newer effects in here that have been improved. I do like the panel layout. It's very intuitive, and they haven't changed it too much from the older model. The design is very similar to the old model as well, which is really great because it's a natural progression for players of this instrument. So all in all, it's a really great stage piano. Please do come down to one of our stores to actually try this out for yourself so you can compare it with other models from different manufacturers too. Like I say, it will be appearing in our stores in February 2020, so just get in touch first just to make sure that it's available in the store of your choice. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. If you've got any questions about stage pianos, then please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. And if you already own a piano that you'd like to upgrade to a new SV2, then get in touch. So perhaps if you have an SV1 that you want to part exchange, we do offer really great deals for trading in your old keyboard. So get in touch with us directly. You'll find the details in the description to this movie. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again in another one of my keyboard demonstration movies.